So what we're going to do right now is we're going to take a look at how to find a missing side when you're given area as opposed to perimeter. So if you look up top, this top box where it says find the area of a rectangle using a formula is just a bit of review. So we know that the area of a rectangle is found by multiplying your length times your width, the length being the longer side of the rectangle and the width being the shorter side. So in this example, they're showing us that this rectangle is 5 squares for the length and 3 squares for the width. So when you multiply those together, you get 15. And one really important thing to remember with area is that you're always going to have units squared. So in this case, they just give us the word unit, but what they would really mean there is you would have feet squared or centimeters squared or meters squared, whatever unit you're using for your equation. So that top box is just a little bit of a review. And then if you look at the second one, the one in kind of the middle of the page, that's where we're going to get into how to find a side when you're only given the area. So first thing, let's just read that sentence. It says the area of a rectangular carpet is 63 square meters. Its length is 9 meters. Find its width. So first thing we're going to do is just kind of look at what we already know. So we know that when you are trying to find an area of a rectangle, you're looking at the length times the width. So let's take a second, let's plug in what we already know. We know the length of this particular rectangle is 9 meters. So we can plug 9 meters in for our length in the equation like they did right here. But we don't know the width, so we're going to go ahead and just leave that with the word width because we don't know what that is. We do know the area though, and the area is 63 meters squared because in this case, the unit is meters, and with area we know it's always going to be the unit squared. So if you're thinking about basic math, you'd probably be able to just kind of know off the top of your head that 9 times 7 is 63. But let's say you get a problem that's a little bit harder and you don't know off the top of your head what that blank would be, what the width would be. The great thing about finding the missing side with area is it's a really simple equation. All you have to do is you're just going to divide. So if you look down here, they kind of switched it around. Let me make that a little bit thicker. They switched around the equation and they did width equals 63 divided by 9. So what you're going to do whenever you're given the area of a rectangle and only one side, either the length or the width, you're going to take that area and just divide by what you're already given. So in this case, we know the area is 63. Divide that by what we're given, 9 meters for the length, and you'll find that other missing side. So we know our missing side is 7 meters. So let's go down to the very bottom and let's practice it for ourselves. It says the area of a rectangular piece of land is 96 square yards. So I'm going to take a second, I'm going to highlight that because I always like to have this information highlighted so I know what to come back to later. So we know it's 96 square yards for the area and the width is 8 yards. Now it doesn't matter that whether it's width or length, it's the same idea for both of them. So they want us to find the length. So we're going to go back in, plug in the equation, length times width equals area. So in this case, we don't know the length, we just leave it as the word length, times our width, which is going to be 8 yards. So let's write a little 8 in there, equals our area. And if we go back up here to what we highlighted, our area is 96 yards, and this should be 96 yards squared in that case, since it's area. So, swap it around. The length is going to be equal to that area, 96, divided by 8. Remember, whenever you're finding the missing side when you have area, you're just going to take the area and divide it by whatever you're given, either that length or that width. So 96 divided by 8 would leave us with 12 yards. And notice that it's just 12 yards. Even though we were using area to help us find this missing length, it's not going to be squared because that length itself is not squared. It's not our area. Only the 96 in this case would be squared. So now we're going to go ahead to the next page, and this page is really just about practicing. So we already know the process of how to find our missing side, whether that's length or width, when we're given our area. So if you look at number 15, it says that the area of this rectangle is 60 centimeters squared. We can see that in the middle right here. And then we are also given what looks like one of our sides, probably the width, because it looks a little bit shorter. So we have our area, we have our width, we don't have our length up top, but that's okay because we know how to find it now. So if you go down, we're going to just plug in some numbers to this equation. So we have our area. We know that it is 60 meters squared. So 60 is our area. We divide by our width, which is 5. And that's going to help us to find that missing side up top. So 60 divided by 5 is 12. It's easy as that. All you have to do, take the area and divide it by what you know. So if you look down at number 16, we know our area is that 36 centimeters. And it looks like this time they're giving us the length, the longer sides. So it doesn't matter that they're giving us the length versus the width, it's the same idea. So we're going to go ahead and plug in what we know. We know that our area is 36, and we're dividing that by the other side that we're given. So 36 divided by 12 would be 3 centimeters. So that little width right there is going to be 3 centimeters. Moving on to page 3, now we're going to talk about what to do with squares. So when you have a rectangle and you're given the area, that's where you get that simple equation where you can just divide the area by whatever side you're given. Squares are a little bit trickier. We know just from the past that every single side of the square is going to be the same length. All the sides are congruent. So that means that every single number, every single length of the side has to be the same. So we can't exactly take our area and divide it by one of the sides most of the time because they're not going to give us a side on a square. They're just going to give us the area. So if we look up here, up top, it says the area of the square is the side times the side. That's the equation we already know. In this case, we're given the area. And what you have to do for a square is you have to make sure that both of those numbers are exactly the same. We have to figure out what number times itself is going to be equal to this area up here. So we kind of know from basic math that 2 times 2, a number times itself, is going to be 4. That's the area of our square. So let's take a second and look down at the example they've given us, number 17. So here we know that our area is 36 centimeters squared, but we're not given any of the sides. But what I just reminded you is that whenever you're finding a missing side of a square, when you're given area, you have to find out what number times itself is equal to your area. So let's think about the number 36. What number times itself is going to be equal to 36? So we already know 2 is not going to be the correct number because from our example up top, 2 times 2 is 4. That's much too small. So I'm going to jump up a bit and think about some higher numbers. If you think about 5 times 5, that is 25. It's not quite high enough. But if you do 6 times 6, that's going to give you that area of 36 centimeters. So that means that this missing side up top is going to be 6 centimeters. Again, it's not going to be 6 centimeters squared because it's not the area. The area is at 36. We're just getting a side. So the side isn't going to be squared. So if you look at the bottom, they want you to kind of go a step further by finding the perimeter of this square. So we know when you're looking at perimeter in a square, you're adding all 4 of these sides together. So what they want us to do, rather than just writing 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6, we're taking those 4 sides. So we can just multiply 6 by 4, which will give us the perimeter of this square, which in this case is 24 centimeters.